Greetings and salutations, everyone. I heard when one door closes, another door opens. But in my experience, it's more like a revolving door. And today, we're going to find out if that's true. Welcome to Head Games. Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Zombie Apocalypse, and when the door is knocking at my house, I just say I'm Steve.
You answer the door by telling people your name.
Yes, always.
Hey gang, I'm Jet, and of all the skills I've learned over the years, picking locks has really opened a lot of doors for me.
That makes a lot of sense.
The Thieves Guild, they just call me Tim.
You know, you should get me in there someday.
We're not allowed to invite people.
Oh, dang. Is it like the rules of Fight Club? You can't talk about the Thieves Guild?
I'm not allowed. I'm not really allowed to talk about it.
Well, we better cut that part of the podcast. Anyway, thank you for joining us today on the Head Games Commander podcast, where we spotlight our favorite commanders from all of Magic the Gathering. But before we get started, when one door closes, another door opens, and that is where we are. And I need you to hit that like button, the subscribe button to the chat, or hit the subscribe button, and make sure you don't. What did I type here? Oh my gosh. I am bad at typing. So anyway, just make sure you hit all the good things onto YouTube, and because you don't want to miss any doors opening up, because there's a lot that opens up on this channel. So Tim,
we got there.
We finally got there, and it's all staying in.
Perfect.
So Tim, who are we shining our spotlight on today?
Today we are spotlighting Garth One-Eye. Animation. In this episode, we'll describe the deck strategy, share what we love about the commander, highlight some of our favorite cards in this deck. It's definitely worth mentioning that this is a deck that Zombie has been playing for a very long time.
Yes.
And that we covered this when we were still AZA.
Episode 3.
Yeah, so this is kind of a repeat for us, which is its own journey and its own adventure, and we're excited to kind of go on it because it's very interesting to see how it's changed over time. So, as I mentioned before, old Garth One-Eye here was built by our friend Zombie Apocalypse, kind of his signature deck these days, all things considered. Garth One-Eye was originally printed in Modern Horizons 2, and I think it technically got a list printing at some point, but really it's just a Modern Horizons commander, and it really shows in how powerful the words on this card are. So, Zombie, tell us about the commander and everything that goes along with that. Your Rule 0, your bracket talk.
Okay, so Garth One-Eyed is a 5-mana Wooburg commander. He is a human wizard. He's a 5/5, which usually is pretty irrelevant, but his text box is quite good. He says, tap, choose a card name that hasn't been chosen from among Disenchant, Brain Geyser, Terror, Shiving Dragon, Regrowth, and Black Lotus. Create a copy of that card with the chosen name. You may cast that copy. You still pay its cost. Okay, let's kind of like simplify that a little bit. Basically, I have the list of those 6 cards. When I tap them, I can cast it at any point. I don't have to follow timing restrictions because it casts on resolution of the spell. And I have to pay for said spell. So, the important ones that I tend to cast the most are Brain Geyser, Regrowth, and Black Lotus. Those are the 3 that are the most that I pick. But Terror and Disenchant are both really good. And I think I've cast Shiving Dragon once. Sometimes you just need a big fatty in the air to block something.
It's true. It does also do that.
So this is the commander, but there is a secret commander. If you haven't figured it out by now, the secret commander of this deck is one of the best cards that was ever printed in all of Magic the Gathering. It is Door to Nothingness. It is a 5-mana artifact that says, Door to Nothingness enters the battlefield tap. Aww.
That seems bad. That seems bad.
It is bad. In fact, it's going to get worse. It's Pay double Wooburg, so white, white, blue, blue, black, black, red, red, green, green. Tap, sacrifice, door to nothingness. Here's where it gets good. Target player loses the game. So this is the Secret Commander. This is the way the deck will win. The Rule Zero conversation, I mentioned that there's only one way that this deck will win. I don't tell people what it is, but once I'm rich and famous because of all this YouTube stuff, everyone's just going to know. And that's the hope. That's the hope. But the best thing is to experience it yourself. Mm-hmm. So the bracket talk is, this is such a hard four, it's unreal. The only reason why it's not CDH is because it doesn't have a meta set in mind. The answers that are in this list wouldn't work very well in CDH. We'll talk about some of the cards in here that just don't work. People aren't attacking too much in CDH, and there's a lot of things that say, hey, don't attack me. So like I would have to get rid of all that, and at that point it would just be easier to win with Thassa's Oracle, and that's boring. So anyway, this is a very powerful deck. It has, I think, 11 game changers in it. This is game changer deck. Turns out they are really good. And I will just stall out the board until I can do my thing. I'll let you do your things with an asterisk, as long as it's not pointed towards me. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and segue into the strengths and weaknesses of this deck, and I think there's a lot we can talk about here. So Tim, what do you got going on for us?
Yeah, there is. And I think we probably are going to end up repeating ourselves at least a little bit here. So the first strength is, and I think that this is important, although with the Secret Commander build of the deck, this may be less important, but it's still really worth talking about, that Garth is just objectively powerful. And by that, I mean, and I say this a lot, but in a vacuum, Garth is a very strong card because it's a Swiss Army knife. Mm-hmm. And that means that in your command zone, you essentially have access to a number of really valuable answers to different situations. You can get stuff back from your graveyard. You can ramp if you need to. You can draw cards. You can destroy specific permanents. You can even put a giant flying dragon into play if that's what the situation calls for. So it makes it so this deck almost always feels like it has the right answer at the right time. Now, that's obviously not always going to be the case, but because you've got that in the command zone, that's just an easy, obvious thing to say about the strength. And the other thing that comes out is going to be very made clear over the course of us talking about it this episode is that the deck is specifically built around trying to survive long enough to make this very, very difficult combo work. And that means it's playing all these very powerful cards, but also that all of the basic categories of what makes a commander deck consistent are very well represented in this deck, which means that like it's been refined over time. You've stuck really well to keeping the fundamentals in place, and because it has such strong fundamentals, it's like it's always going to do something at a table. It's you know, I shouldn't say always, but it is consistently a contender, even if it has a hard time sometimes getting to the finish line. And that really does kind of segue well into what I think is the weakness of the deck, is that it is ultimately a meme list, and it is a meme list that has a bracket 4 power sitting behind it.
It's a 1 that's a bracket 4.
Right, but it is, you know, it is ultimately memeless because you refuse to win any other way than using the door. It means you have to jump through hoops to win the way that you want to, which means you are going to make suboptimal choices. You have to. And you have to play cards that facilitate that particular combo, which are not necessarily as powerful as the other things in the deck. So that ultimately results in the deck being slow. And as you said, that's why the game plan of the deck is to be a little stacksy, to gum up the board a little bit to make it at least disincentivizing up people from attacking you long enough for you to set up and do what you want to do. So it is slow. It just is. But it really, again, that is the weakness. If I had to simplify it down to one line, it takes a little while to set up.
Yep. And I think with it being a control deck at heart, being slow is okay. Because when we go into the basics, you'll see how many different interaction spells, and some of the spells that are in here don't qualify as interaction, but they stop you from attacking anyone or me, or only one creature can attack. There's a lot of things that just slow everyone else's game plan down enough that I have enough time to draw a whole bunch of cards and play powerful spells. So,
and in that scenario, when you're playing those kind of cards, at the very least, you're getting your opponent to use their resources on those cards instead of the ones that actually matter.
It's true.
So cards that are gumming up the board and slowing down everybody's game serve that double function of actually. I mean, Rhystic Studies obviously are really good. We're not going to talk about that card in great detail. It's not on the list anywhere today, but it is a good example of that. It either lurches you forward or slows your opponents down, or it makes them use a removal spell on it, and in any of those cases you're fine with that.
I've won, right? Especially with a regrowth in the command zone, and I'm like, oh, I really still need this Rhystic Study. I have it back. Like,
that's right.
Turns out having a regrowth in your command zone is really, really good.
Yes.
All right, so in my opinion, the strengths of the deck is there's just some of the most powerful cards in all of Magic the Gathering history. I have a Black Lotus in my command zone. So my interactions, like, best of the 5 colors that I have. Like, there's just so many good answers that I have. And as you were saying, a lot of my pieces do very specific things, and they do them very, very, very well. And that just automatically increases the power of the deck. And man, just having 12 game changers or 11 game changers, you can see it when you play it, right?
Yep.
We were playing a game with this deck not too long ago, and we were playing against a budget Calamex deck, and his Calamex deck did great for what it was. But the problem is when it's sitting across the deck, across the table of a deck that costs, $5,000. You're going to see some disparities.
It's true.
So some of the weaknesses is it is a slower deck, and sometimes I draw the wrong pieces. Sometimes mana fixing can be a little bit of an issue. Like if I don't have any of my mana doublers or anything like that, sometimes I find myself having trouble casting the simplest spells like Phyrexian Arena or Mycian Mind Cage, where it's like, sometimes I don't have enough of the pips. Now, I have a really, really good land base, but sometimes you just don't get the right pieces. So finding the wrong pieces at the wrong time can make it seem like I'm literally doing nothing. There's been games that have ended quickly enough, and I've only cast 2 or 3 spells the whole entire game.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens sometimes. And like that's something to be expected when you're running a meme list like this. And like my mana curve is absolutely absurd. Let me see what the average mana cost here is. I have, oh God, it doesn't have like here it is. My average mana cost without lands is 3.29. My cards are expensive.
Yep.
So there will be times where I'm stuck with 3 cards in my hand that I can't cast because I didn't get the right ramp pieces. So there's feel bad moments like that, but again, this deck is just so much fun to pilot. And one of the other weaknesses of this deck is when you draw 20 cards, decision paralysis is a thing that you have to deal with. Trying to figure out the best line to get to the next part of the game plan can be very difficult. In the game that we brought up earlier, I drew 20 cards in one turn and still had mana left over, and it was just like, okay, well, what do I do now? I have to figure that out. And yeah, drawing 20 cards is powerful, folks.
I think it's worth mentioning that despite the bracket for power level of this deck and all the other things that go along with it, the number of tutors that you're playing with is still relatively low.
It's demonic tutor. I think that's really the only
War of Invention.
And yep.
But still, point still stands. Like
and
normally
Tezzeret,
in a combo deck like this, and when you think of the game changers that you're likely running, you're not, there's 11 game changers and one of them's a tutor.
So originally I did have Enlightened Tutor and Vampire Tutor, and the problem that I ended up having was the games felt very samey.
That's my point, is that you deliberately hamstrung yourself by not playing all of those tutors. This deck would, that decision paralysis comes from a place of you chose to go the route of drawing a bunch of cards to try to get into the combo. So you're trying to do kind of the big splashy thing that looks really fun when you're playing the game. Like what's more impressive at a table? Drawing 20 cards to see if you hit the thing that you want, or just tutoring and actually getting the thing that you want? Most players are going to be like, oh dang, drawing 20 cards is so cool, and for that reason the deck is really, that's one of the reasons we build decks the way that we do. So my point is that you created variance for yourself by choosing to lower the number of tutors, ultimately resulting in gameplay that is going to sometimes fizzle.
Yes. But that was just a decision in deck building as a whole, because I don't know about you, but I really love drawing cards. Like, that's why I play Magic the Gathering, not because the game's fun. It's because I like just picking up cards and putting them in my hand.
And really, I think that this kind of invites a conversation that I think a lot of people can probably relate to, Magic players, I mean, is that the feeling of drawing the card that you want is different than the feeling of tutoring for it.
Very true.
When you draw it, for whatever reason, it feels like you earned it. And when you tutor it, it feels like you cheated for it. And we know it's part of the game. It's not technically cheating, but it does feel that way. So part of it is also like I'm trying to create that feeling for myself in building the deck where I organically happen into the combo that's effectively going to win me the game, or is going to make the deck do the thing I want to do. So it's interesting to think that that's part of why we make the choices we make.
I will say one last note. If you want to get super technical, usually on the turn that I win, Brain Geyser becomes just a really expensive tutor. How many cards do I have in my library? I'm drawing that many.
It does. And really but again, you're creating this very big game experience by going so over the top. You're building the Rube Goldberg machine to get to the combo, rather than just saying, I'm going to pay 1 white mana for Enlightened Tutor and put my card onto the exact card I need right now on top of the deck, and then I'm going to win the game. It's just, it's more splashy. It's more dramatic. That's what it is. You're a drama queen.
And I am the drama. I tell my kids that all the time. We've been stuck on this category for a little while, so let's hop on to the next one.
So we're going to move into the basics. These are the traditional card categories that every Commander deck wants to improve consistency. They think of these as your fundamentals. These are the kind of cards you need to play so that you can play the cards that you want to play. Let Zombie tell you the numbers of different basic categories that he has in the deck.
So in card draw, we have 12. Ramp, we have 16. Single targeted interaction, we have 13. And mass interaction, we have 9. That's a lot of big numbers in all of those categories.
It is.
That's why this deck usually runs as smoothly as it does. Because when you have the basics down as padded as I have them, it turns out things will go your way.
Yeah, the deck is consistent as a result, and 3 out of those 4 categories are present in your command zone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was funny. Originally, I had different numbers in here, and then I was like 11, but 12 if you count Brain Geyser, 16. If you count Black Lotus, 13. If you count Disenchant and Terror, like...
And you do. The answer is
I
you
did.
do.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's cool how, like, because if you were to add up all these numbers, you're getting a really, like, how many cards are in this deck if I have this many categories. The cool thing is a lot of my cards do both, right? One of the cards that we're going to talk about later does both.
Yep.
And there's just a lot of things. My commander does 3 of the things. Like, that's why I chose Garth to begin with. Because it was original. Well, I don't remember. Oh, it used to be Kenrith. The original commander used to be Kenrith a long time ago. And I was like, wait, well, I'm just spending 4 mana to draw 1 card. So why not just spend a lot of mana? Like, it was just like the red ability didn't matter to me. The white ability was okay. The blue ability was important. The green ability, I don't even remember what the green one does.
Puts a counter.
Yeah, like none of that mattered.
Nope.
So it was just like, okay, let's change the commander, and the deck has never been happier. All right,
Yeah,
so
it was an excellent choice.
So we're gonna go ahead and choose cards from each of those categories to just gush about. That's what this podcast is about. We love gushing about cards, so we're gonna do it here. So Tim, what was the card draw card that you picked?
So I want to preface this and all of our choices today by saying, remember that this is a bracket 4 deck and is playing with some of the most powerful cards in each of these categories. So we normally try to prioritize talking about cards that are interesting or cards that specifically synergize, but this is a deck about power, not a deck about synergy. So, like, these are going to be unsurprising picks, I think, by and large.
Yeah.
And my first one really kicks that off in perfect form. The card draw I picked is the One Ring.
It's a good one.
Obviously, if you have played Commander, you are familiar with this card. It is a 4-mana artifact that is indestructible. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burden counter on it, and then you may tap it to put a burden counter on it and draw a card for each burden counter on it. So lots to love here. We could probably spend a long time talking about just how good it is in this deck, but suffice it to say that this card is remarkably good.
Yeah, there is one thing that I want to bring up. I have probably 5 or 6 different ways to kind of loop it.
Yep.
Like every turn, kind of loop it. And if you want to have friends, don't do that.
I mean, it's a bit of a soft lock, and they're like, nowadays people, we know this card exists. Exile-based enchantment removal has become much more prevalent as a result. So it's not a card that is impossible to get rid of. It's just hard. And obviously this is a control deck, so counter spells exist, but it's a soft lock when you loop it. And again, it is an incredibly powerful card just in a vacuum. Yeah.
Real good. So the card draw card that I picked, this is something that probably not a lot of you will know about. It is from the C16. I think there was a printing of this beforehand, but it's called Minds Aglow. For 1 blue mana, it says join forces. Starting with you, each player may put any amount of mana into the spell. Each player draws X cards, where X is the total mana amount of mana paid this way. So the cool thing is, when you're hugging people and letting them draw cards too, people are more willing to pay into it. So there's been times where I'm paying this and putting 2 into it, and then other people put like 5 or 6. And if you're playing me, don't do that. It is a bad idea.
Couldn't be me. I would never put a mana into the spell.
It is true. This spell was played in the game. A lot of cool things happened afterwards. Heartbreaking things happened afterwards, but I fixed it afterwards anyway, because when you have several hundred mana, it doesn't matter. Alrighty, so now that we talked about card draw, we're going to go ahead and dive deep into our ramp picks. And this is one of the ones where I was talking about where it fits in both 2 categories.
It does. It does. So my pick is Chromatic Orrery. This is a 7-mana legendary artifact. First line says you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color, which is just awesome in this deck because when you have to, when you stop having to care about color pips, it makes your decision making so much easier. Yep. It is a mana rock that taps for 5 colorless mana, so it falls into the ramp category, but also has an ability that reads spend 5 generic mana and tap it, draw a card for each color among permanents you control. So best case scenario, you've got your commander on board, this draws you 5 cards. So it is card draw, it is ramp, it is expensive, but the whole point of this deck is to get late into the game so that you can play big spells like this and then get enormous value out of them. And I think this is a good case study for that.
I will say, it is a very expensive card draw because I am losing 5 mana and spending 5 mana. So it's 10 mana for 5 cards. So you're paying an on rate for a lot of things. But I have copy effects in this deck. So I can copy it. And it happens a lot.
Yep.
Man, this card is amazing. There's a reason why it's $35. And this deck perfectly exemplifies why it's worth as much as it is. I love this card a lot. That's one of the first, that's usually my Whir of Invention search for target. It's such a good card. So the ramp piece that I picked is another kind of group huggy card. There is group huggy cards, but this is not a group hug deck. Let's make this perfectly clear. And we're talking about Heartbeat of Spring. It is a 3 mana enchantment. It's 2 and a green. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, that player adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. Now, there is another copy of this called Mana Flare. It's just the same thing, but red. And believe me when I say I will utilize my mana way better than you will utilize yours. There's so many big mana spells. Now, there is a couple of Nombos in here. I have Ghostly Prison and Propaganda and stuff. But usually when I'm playing this, it doesn't matter anymore. So, card's great. The funny thing is I don't have very much land ramp in this deck, and I think that's one of the downsides of running this card. I don't have a lot of land ramp. I don't know if I want to change that or not.
An interesting note, now that you're mentioning it, and it's not the only example of this in the deck. Although, as you said, Heartbeat of Spring and Mana Flare essentially being the same card. It'd be an interesting thing to kind of look at as you play the deck more in the future. How much is it? Because I'm gonna just come out and say I disagree with you're gonna use your mana better than everybody else is. You've got 3 opponents at the table.
It's true.
So you're actually giving out way more mana with these cards than you're getting. It's just that your deck needs that to get to where it wants to be. So it feels like you're benefiting more when really it's just confirmation bias. It's just now my deck is operating the way that I want it to now that it's firing on all the cylinders. But other decks are perfectly capable of using a lot of mana. They may not all have it, but you have 3 opponents, so
it's true. But the reason why I say that is because I do have an X card draw spell in my command zone, and usually I'm not playing Heartbeat of Spring until after my commander's out.
Yep.
So it's I'm going to utilize that mana right away versus just playing this. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have done this on turn 3, play this and just accelerate the game to Kingdom Come. But a lot of the times I'm playing this a little bit later in the game where I kind of have a couple of good protection pieces in my hand or removal in my hand where go ahead and do your things. I'll just wipe the board and it doesn't matter anyway.
Right.
I'm such a horrible person. Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and go into our single target interaction, and this is one of the cards that helps with the One Ring. So Tim, tell us what card you picked.
So for interaction, there's lots of really good pieces here, and this one I think was one that was more versatile, which is why I picked it. And it's Venser Shaper Savant. So this is a 4 mana 2/2 blue for a human wizard. It's a 2/2 with flash, and when it enters, you can return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. So this is, especially in Commander, the kind of best bounce spell that's ever been printed, because it is on a creature. So there's a lot of opportunity for it to for it to be abused. And again, it can get the One Ring back to your hand, but it can also just be a counter spell, a temporary one, a memory lapse, if you need it to be. So like the versatility of this card makes it, I've just seen it kind of win an interaction battle a
Yep.
number of different times, and it's why I highly value this card.
Yeah, this card does so many powerful things, and honestly, it's a great chump blocker too.
Yeah,
because I'll need to do that sometimes. Where like,
that's right.
Hey, this guy's making crazy amounts of mana. He's getting past my propagandas. He's getting past my ghostly prisons. I just need to throw a creature in my way so I don't die. And that's where Venser really falls in. And when I have a regrowth in the command zone, I can just bring it back and do it again and make everyone else hate me. So, yeah, it's quite powerful. The card that I picked was Mana Drain. This is another card that kind of goes into two categories. I didn't count it as ramp because it's only burst mana, but
yep.
I have definitely countered something that costs 5 on somebody, so I can then on my next turn play Chromatic Orrery for 2 mana. But Mana Drain reads, it's 2 blue, counter target spell at the beginning of your next main phase, add a number of colorless equal to the spell's converted mana cost. Okay, so I have used this as burst ramp mana. It's not my favorite thing, but that's a lot of mana this thing can generate. It's such a powerful card. And it's a lot cheaper than it used to be. So if you have an extra $50 lying around, go ahead and pick it up. Like,
I was just thinking that. I was like, yeah, I mean, for just, you heard it here first, folks. Like, if you have $50 lying around, you should be running Mana Drain instead of Counterspell. What are you doing? Are you poor? What's wrong with you?
Gosh. It is. I mean, it used to be like in the $7,500. So like it has been printed a lot. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it will eventually be cheaper.
I'm still offended by this card. I really think that, and I don't mind saying it out loud in a recording, I really think this is a game changer.
It should be. It really should be.
I don't understand why it's not. Because the swing that you get as the result of this, because any skillful control player is going to wait for the most opportune time and counter that 5, 6, 7 mana spell and then just leap forward on their turn. It's such a huge swing for only 2 mana, and the fact that it's like in every way better than Counterspell really floors me that it's not prioritized more. But I guess it's the $50 price tag that keeps most people away from it. But what a gross card.
And let's be real, I have burned you so many times this card.
Yeah, that's why I don't like it.
I don't blame you. So we're gonna go ahead and dive into our mass interaction. And again, there's nothing super flashy about the cards that we picked. It's just we picked the best in the categories, right? Like that's what this deck did. So Tim, what's the protection piece that you picked?
So I picked one of my faves, Pernicious Deed. This is an enchantment, 1, a black and a green. It reads, pay X and sacrifice it. Destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with converted mana cost X or less. So what's beautiful about this in this deck is a lot of your most important pieces are actually a little slightly higher mana value. So you can kind of target this lower on. Let's not forget that you can pop this for 0 and destroy every token on board. So it's uniquely good against token decks, and tokens that aren't copies. Don't kill me in the comments. But that it is versatile and that it gets all of those different different permanents as well. Like all those different permanent types it's very, very, very valuable and very versatile. So I think it's a great pick for this deck.
And also the fact that I can just produce a lot of mana. Sometimes you just need to say goodbye everything.
That's right.
And then it's also recurable. So a lot of good things to say about that card.
Because it's excellent point that it is, in fact, it is a permanent, so you can get it back. I mean, regrowth gets anything back, so
it's true, but yes. It's quite recurable. Anyway, so the card that I'm going to talk about is nothing special. It's only Teferi's Protection. It is a 2 and a white.
Nobody's heard of that card.
Not once. Until your next turn, your life total can't change. You have protection from everything, and all permanents you control phase out. Exile Teferi's Protection. There's a lot of times where I can set myself up for the win, and then I will just nope out of the game, and then win on my upkeep. I have used this offensively, so it's like, all right, I have everything that I need. Now you guys can't touch me. And then I'll win.
Yep. It really, I'm not going to leave anything up to chance. I'm just going to take a couple of turns off here, let my opponents deal with what that looks like, try to put a game plan together to stop me. But by that point, if that's what you're doing, if you're casting T-Pro on your opponent's, your next turn cycle opponent's upkeep and saying, I'm just going to leave for a couple of turns, probably inevitable at that point.
Yeah, card's really good. Turns out game changers are really good. I don't know how many times we're going to say that in this episode.
Okay, that's all the basics. Let's talk about some non-basics, and this is what we call the categories that are specific to the deck. So we ask ourselves whenever we're covering a commander deck, what are the goals and or categories that this deck needs to be successful? And so in this one, we talked about a couple of them already, but I'll let Zombie kind of give us the categories, the non-basic categories that are going to be specific goals for this deck.
Alrighty. So the non-basic number 1 is stay alive. Non-basic number 2. Really, don't die.
Just as good.
The non-basic number 3 is getting that big mana. So I have that turn that just explodes, right? And then the last non-basic is opening the door for everyone. Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and gush some cards about in each of those categories. These are the more specific cards, as we said before. So, Tim, what was the first card that you picked in the Stay Alive category?
So the cards in this category are really designed to slow the game down, keep opponents from attacking, do things of that nature, just really kind of make the more aggressive decks have to make different decisions so that the deck has time to set itself up. So a great pick here is Silent Arbiter. This is a 4-mana artifact creature. It's a 1/5, and it reads, no more than one creature may attack each combat, and no more than one creature may block each combat. So it completely changes the dynamics of combat, but that very important only one creature can attack. Most decks, if they're trying to win with combat damage, are trying to overwhelm the opponent with a wider board, so that limiting it to one creature really does grind things to a halt. So
yeah, I just like this card a lot. There's a couple of benefits that I don't necessarily get to take advantage of. It makes creatures with menace unblockable. It's just something that if you have a creature with menace, I do have to be a little careful about playing with. But again, that's such a minor thing that I'm not too worried about. But I love this card a lot. I've loved this card since 5th Dawn when it was printed, and that was like 20 years ago. Thank you for making me feel old, Magic the Gathering. All right, so the next card we're going to talk about is one of my favorite pieces, and it was printed in the same block. I'm telling you, Mirrodin must be like one of my favorite sets.
What's a block?
A block is where they have 3 sets with the same thematic theme, and like the beginning set was like the start of the story, the middle set was like the fall of the story, and the third set was like the victory, like the end of the story. It was like a book. World
Say
dinosaurs.
less. I mean, that's awesome. Why don't we still do that?
I don't know, Wizards of the Coast. Why don't we do that? Leave a message in the comment and tell me why. Anyway, Fate Spinner is a 3-mana human wizard that says at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player chooses draw step, main phase, or combat. That player skips each instance of the chosen step or phase this turn. One thing I do want to mention, having multiple Fate Spinners doesn't do anything for you because you can just choose the same step over and over and over again. Because I do have a couple clones in here and it just makes me sad every time I want to do it and it just doesn't work the way I want it to. But giving that choice of whether you want to play spells, draw a card, or attack with your creatures just makes people suffer. And it brings joy into my heart because I'm a horrible, horrible person. But no, this slows things down to a screeching halt. And when someone says I'm skipping my main phase, I get a little scared. So, but a lot of the times people will just choose combat, and that's what it's really in here for. And I tell people, hey, just skip combat. It's okay. People don't listen to me.
No, because decks are often built to attack with creatures in order to win. Yeah, what's remarkable to me about this card is it's a 1/2. It dies to shock, and it still like people don't prioritize this as a removal target. Like this deserves a removal spell.
It really does,
because it really does because it. I mean, maybe not immediately, but it hamstrings you after a certain amount of time. Like it makes it so you're having to make, kind of a villainous choice to use a more modern parlance. So the fact that you have to be making decisions that you don't normally have to make takes resources from your ability to make decisions elsewhere. That's just how the human brain works. So this really does a great job of disorienting your opponents. And I mean the people playing the game at the table, like having to figure out how to do this math and how to like make this work and get around this is very frustrating. And that's what you want. You want them to be frustrated, and it's very successful at doing that.
Alrighty, Tim. So what is the no really I don't want to die card?
So more cards to slow our opponents down to make it hard for us for them to beat us. This one is probably one of the least well-known cards in this list, I would say. And it's you've been extolling the virtues of this card for a very, very long time. And I always look for it in the wrong place because I feel like it's a creature, and it's not. It's an enchantment.
Definitely not.
So the card is Maishin the Mind Cage. This is from one of the first Kamigawa sets in the Kamigawa block. So it costs 7 mana. It's 4 and 3 blue for a legendary enchantment. It reads, all creatures get -X/-0, where X is the number of cards in your hand. And we know that Zombie loves to draw cards, so this deck is full of very effective card draw spells. So this is often nerfing the entire board's power, and it's much harder to get around than it seems. Like it changes the math significantly. This spell should not be underestimated.
Right. Even if it's like as small as -2/-0, right? That means you need to have a 4x to kill a 2/2.
That's right.
Like it changes the math. And the fact that I have an instant speed X draw card in my command zone, it could just be Maishin the Mind Cage. Oh, you're attacking me for 30? Let's draw 20 cards and say, sorry, you wasted your time. So there's just a lot of utility behind it. The only downside is that this card is really expensive to cast. But when you're talking about cards that double your mana frequently, that 7 mana is really not that big of an issue to get past. So I love this card a lot. I can't really talk much about it. Now, the card that I picked is the best bang for your buck in a 5-color deck to make people not attack you, and it is called Collective Restraints. It's a bit expensive at $14, but it is a 4-mana enchantment. It says creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays X for each creature attacking you, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. This says for 4 mana, you have to pay 5 to attack me.
Yep.
That's a really good rate. Considering for 3 mana, the standard rate is 3 mana for 2 to attack me. So for 1 more mana, you're getting Ghostly Prison, and the other one. Propaganda. And an additional mana for 1 extra mana. It's really nice.
Yep.
And then, you know what the best thing is, Tim? They stack with each other.
They do.
They do. When it gets to the point where it's like, okay, I have to pay how much to attack you? Did you say 7? In what world would you attack me if you couldn't cast, I don't know, Mice into Mind Cage? That was just a 7-mana spell that we just happened to be talking about recently. Or,
right.
Like, you're not going to want to do that. You're going to want to spend the mana to play a game-winning spell versus paying 7 mana to attack me with 1 creature.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. I mean, it really is fantastic at disincentivizing your opponents from attacking you, but they still want to attack, which means very real chance that they're just beating each other. And if one of your opponents takes out another one, that's one less hoop you have to jump through. You're still winning with Door at the end of the game. So really, if you only have to get Door off once because somebody else is taking out 2 other players, it's still a win.
A win is a win is a win. So now we're diving into probably my favorite category in the whole deck. And that is, let's get big mana, baby. So yeah. Tim, what's the card that you picked?
So I picked Mana Reflection. This is a 6-mana enchantment for generic 2 green. If you tap a permanent for mana, it produces twice as much of that mana instead. So really important to note here that it doesn't run into any of the same problems that Mana Flare or Heartbeat of Spring do because it's one-sided. And it also includes all of your mana rocks, which is the dominant way that this deck ramps. So very valuable enchantment here. And it just made me realize now that I'm looking at the list, like how many enchantments there actually are for a non-enchantment themed deck. There's quite a lot of enchantments in this deck, and there's a reason for that, is because they are just actually harder to deal with. I know people are like, oh, there's Disenchant or Ashes to Ashes or any of these other cards that are, we see people play those cards in Commander, but they usually only have 1 or 2 in their list. So, like, the fact that there's so many enchantments in this deck means they run out of enchantment removal because you're putting so many, how are you going to deal with all these different enchantment stacks pieces? You're going to burn all that stuff trying to get the Ghostly Prison and the Collective Restraint out of the way, and then bam, Mana Reflections. Now I have double mana.
Let me tell you, Mana Reflections works really good with the card that I'm going to talk about, and we're talking about Doubling Cube from the 5th Dawn set. So it's back to Mirrodin we go. Doubling Cube is a 2-mana artifact that says pay 3 and tap it, double the amount of each mana type of mana in your mana pool. So basically, in order for me to net mana, I need to have 7, and I net 1. But let's make this perfectly honest. I'm pumping 25 mana into this thing to get to 50. Or with That's Mana Reflections, it makes it complicated. So if you have 25 mana left in your mana pool, you get 75 because you're doubling the amount that this would produce, which is double of what you already have. So it's 75. We paid the math budget in that episode. And it's just a fun card in the past. I used to run a Door deck in Standard, and one of the ways that I would get a lot of mana would be Doubling Cube. Yeah. What a great card. Unfortunately, it is considered a mana ability, so I can't copy it with a lot of my other activated copiers.
Sure.
But I think that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Yeah, it does a very similar thing, but in a very different way. And it is true that whenever we're talking about the word double, like that scales, right? So obviously, if I'm doubling a small amount of mana, it doesn't seem quite so potent. But when we're talking about getting to doubling cube after Mana Reflections is already on board, or after Mana Flare is already on board, then you're talking about much bigger numbers. So when this deck goes big, it goes very big.
I will say there is no infinite combos. It just goes really unnecessarily big. I think at one point I had over 200 and something mana in my mana pool in the last game. And that's enough to cast every spell in this deck. Probably 2 times over.
No, I think your total mana value is 204, so it's enough to literally cast everything in your deck. Well, so 204,
not including X spells,
doesn't account for X in the mana value. Yeah,
so that's still pretty impressive.
Yes,
if you can cast every spell in your deck, I think you're doing something right, and that's not including that's like Force of Will. That's a 5 mana spell, but that I'm going to cast for free. so it gives and it takes, Turns out having a lot of mana will win you games. In fact, that's like one of the things that I kind of bring to people's attention when, how do you win a game of Magic? Have lots of mana, or spend the most mana and draw the most cards, and you'll most likely win the game. And that's what this deck does. It spends the most mana and draws the most mana, or uses the most mana. So now we're getting to the fun part. How do we open the door for everyone? So Tim, what card did you pick?
Well, sometimes you ring the doorbell, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how you open the door. And in this case, you ring the doorbell of Brighthearth, or you just cast Rings of Brighthearth. Did I get there?
You got there. You had me. At the ring the doorbell.
Rings of Brighthearth is a 3 mana artifact that reads, whenever you activate an ability, if it isn't a mana ability, you may pay 2 generic. If you do copy that ability, you may choose new targets for the copy. So this is specifically in the deck to copy the door trigger. There are some other options here. The One Ring, anybody copying the card draw trigger from that as an activated ability. So there are some other things that you can do here, but really Rings is in here for the door. So I've been thinking about my doorbell and when you're gonna ring it.
Yeah, I mean, it works really well with Chromatic Orrery as well. That's how I was drawing 20 cards in a single turn, where it's like, I'm going to untap, Chromatic Orrery and just do it again. Sometimes you have so much mana, it doesn't matter how you're wasting your mana at some point. So there's a lot of other good things that I can copy.
True.
There's not like an atrocious amount of things that I can copy. But again, usually how this deck will win is I'm going to draw my whole deck. I'll play Rings, I'll play another copy effect, and then play the door, have the door untap, and then kill everyone with door. So the fact that I can do it on the turn that I play it makes it really, really important. So the card that I picked, I changed my pick. That's right. So I chose Peter Parker's Camera, and it's basically the same thing. It only costs 1. And this artifact enters with 3 film counters on it. And then I can pay 2 to remove a film counter. This from this artifact, copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. So for 3 mana, I'm doing the same thing that cost me 5. Now I can only do it 3 times, but hey Tim, if everyone loses in one turn, do I need to do it more than once?
You don't. I don't. At least I don't think so.
So as long as there's one film counter on it, be afraid. Be very afraid.
Yeah. What kind of magic is film?
Good question. I mean, You know, the Amish do believe that it does suck out their soul when you put their face on film. So
that's not true, folks. But okay.
It's the myths that you hear. Okay.
Learn about your local culture.
Yeah. Don't be like me. Alrighty. So now we're gonna go talk about some honorable mentions. These are cards that we just didn't have enough time to talk about. So we want to talk about them now. So the card that I picked for my honorable mention, we're going back to the Mirrodin block with Bringer of the Blue Dawn.
It's represented here.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because, well, just so you guys know, Door to Nothingness was originally printed in 5th Dawn. Let's make this perfectly clear.
What do you know?
What do you know?
Yeah.
So Bringer of the Blue Dawn is a 7 and 2 blue creature bringer. You may pay Wooburg rather than pay Bringer of the Blue Dawn's mana cost. Funny thing is the way this was printed, all the mana symbols are gray instead of having the colors. Interesting factoid. This was only like a 5th Dawn problem. I don't know what caused it, but it's funny to me. Anyway, it's a 5/5 trampler, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, you draw 2 cards. Man, let me tell you, every time that I see this card, it just does so much work for me. Like, this is like Phyrexian Rena on crack. And it's a 5/5 blocker, which is also nice. The tramples, whatever. But it's a 5/5 blocker.
No, it's a 5/5 body that draws you 2 cards extra turn, and you're almost always casting it for 5. So, like, really, it is surprisingly resilient, and really, like, again, it's another one of those cards that is really getting you an enormous amount of value, and everybody under prioritizes it. Everybody sees it and goes, I mean, he's drawing extra cards. It's just a 5/5. I can manage that. But he's drawing you 2 cards every turn. It's so swingy, and people don't destroy it.
It almost catches me up with every single one of my opponents with 1 card. Because they're drawing 3 cards to my 1. Now I'm drawing 3 cards to their 3. Well, I'm drawing 3 cards to their 3 cards. So I kind of catch up, right? And it's really important to do. Alrighty, Tim. What's the card that you picked for this category?
So I picked Phyrexian Metamorph, and so most people are familiar with this card in the Commander format. It's a 4 mana artifact creature. It's 3 and a blue Phyrexian, which means you can pay 2 life to get the colored mana. So oftentimes you're going to play this for 3 and 2 life, but you can pay 4 for it if one of those is blue and you feel like it. So it's a clone. It enters as a copy of any artifact or creature on the battlefield, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. So in Commander, clones are, I think, a little bit better than they are in a lot of other formats because you have lots of options to choose from, and this deck has incredibly powerful cards on its side that it doesn't mind making copies of. I've seen you copy so many different things with this card, and it really, again, kind of does the Swiss Army knife thing where it is amplifying whatever you're already doing in whatever way you need it to. Do you need it to be an extra soul ring early on in the game? Do you need it to be another Rings of Brighthearth so you can close out the game with 2 additional triggers? You know, so many different options. Do you need it to be another Bringer of the Blue Dawn? There's again, lots of really good, and stuff that your opponents have are definitely worth thinking about targeting as well. So
does it need to be another 1 ring?
Does it need to be another 1 ring? It certainly can be if you need to get that protection piece again. So versatile and so remarkable. It's a good slot here because in a control shell you want options.
Yep, I like this card a lot, and there's, as you said, there's just so many choices, and like there's times where like I will copy a legendary thing just so I can get the effect again, or like there's been times where I've copied Garth with it, like Garth go to the graveyard. Now I have more, like I have access to those spells that I've cast already, and then when this inevitably dies, or I just want to bring the real Garth out because for whatever reason, I can just reset that way. It's a good like reset piece for my commander. There's there's just so many good things that I could talk about this card. And it's fun. I like it a lot.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, so now we're going to go into the hardest part of the episode, because when this deck has been around as long as it has, it's hard to pick new cards that will work in this deck. Now, the cards that we picked aren't new, but there are cards that I've either considered, haven't considered, and let's go see what your pick is for the card to consider.
So we talked about this card a bit, and I totally agree that it is hard to find cards to add to this deck, because it is a very, I mean, narrow is the word that comes to mind. I don't mean that in a negative light, but it is trying to do one very specific thing. So it's like the card either has to be just remarkably objectively powerful at doing one of the basic things, or follow one of your non-basic categories really well. And I think that this one falls into that latter category.
It sure
your
does.
Non-basic 4 category of opening the door for everybody. And the card is Go-Go, Master of Mimicry from Final Fantasy last year. So this is a 3-mana 2/4, and it reads XX, tap it. Copy target activated or triggered ability you control X times. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability can't be copied, and X can't be 0. So the last 2 bits of line there are kind of housekeeping to keep it from being too busted.
Right.
But really, in a big mana deck, you can pump a lot of X into old Go-Go here and copy a lot of different activated and targeted abilities. So I think that the opportunity for shenanigans is really high with this card.
Yeah, I agree. And like, you brought it to my attention, there's a lot of things that I could copy that I just didn't think that would necessarily be a good thing to copy. Sphinx of the Second Sun. It's given me another beginning phase at the it can copy Venser a lot. It can copy Garth. Now, copying Garth is a little weird, because when I copy it, I have to choose different cards every time. So like, I could do like Black Lotus, Brain Geyser, and Shivan Dragon, but I couldn't do Black Lotus, Black Lotus, Black Lotus. I just wanted to make that perfectly clear. I do get to choose other things. I can copy Belladros, Witherbloom. How many times? Because it's can it copy mana abilities? It doesn't. Mana abilities can't be targeted. Yeah,
that does say that. Yep.
So, cool thing about Belladros, so not a mana ability. It just
not a mana ability.
Not a mana ability.
Yeah, so just, add 5 different trigger, or like got to be a double. So add 4 different triggers of untapping all of your lands.
That seems like a game-winning card. Yeah, it was just there was things that I didn't consider as like would be a good thing to copy. The One Ring is another one of those examples of things that I can copy. Even like Sylvan Library, Smothering Tithe, whatever. Like the list is surprisingly endless. So definitely something that I should consider in the future. But finding a card to pull out for it, very difficult.
That's the tough part, for sure.
And then the card that I wanted to bring up is something that I use in a different deck. And I think I'm going to be tearing that deck apart, guys. And it is Glacial Chasm. It has it's a land. It has cumulative upkeep, pay 2 life. When Glacial Chasm enters the battlefield, sacrifice a land. Creatures you control can attack. Oh no. But it does say prevent all damage that would be dealt to me. This card just says I'm not gonna die. And it fits that category really well.
Also easier to slot into the deck, right? Like, not hard to find a land that is like, this is just a land that makes mana.
The problem with that is like, I only have 37 lands in the list, and I never ever count this as a land when I put it in a deck. I count it as a spell because this land doesn't tap for mana.
That's fair.
So this is definitely a spell in my eyes, but like I could also just see getting rid of, I don't know, Sphere of Safety. It's a 5 mana spell that says you can't attack me unless if you pay X, where X is the number of enchantments I have. I only have, I say only like it's a small number. I have 14 enchantments in here, but usually I have 2 or 3 that are on the board. So it's just a really expensive Ghostly Prison. So that seems like a good card to get rid of for that card specifically, because it's doing the same thing, but this is doing it way better. I will say sacrificing land could be a problem. I try not to miss land drops. I have 37 in the list. So I try not to miss land drops, and sacrificing that land could be a problem. But again, I have a regrowth in my command zone, not necessarily wanting to regrowth a land from my graveyard to play it again. But if I'm regrowthing this land to play it again, might be worth it.
Could be.
So, I accidentally hid my script. So, I think we're done.
That's it. Game over.
Yeah.
All right, friends, opponents, it is time to finally close the lid on this episode, or maybe close the window. We're going to close something. I don't know what it is.
I don't think it's a door, though.
No. Thank you for spending time with us on the Head Games Commander podcast. Remember, you can support our show and all the other content by watching this and our other videos on our YouTube page, as well as the recent gameplay featuring this commander that we've mentioned several times today. You'll find those links in the description.
But before we scoop things up, we want to hear from you, the think tanks. What cards would you play in this particular Garth One Eye? I am really interested to see what you have to say, because a normal Garth One Eye deck isn't going to look anything like this. But I am really interested to see what you guys think would fit in a Door to Nothingness deck. What commanders would you like us to build and spotlight in the future? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for playing along with us, and have a wonderful day. Here, let me show you the door. Bye. Oh, and don't let the door hit you on the way out.